The Galactic Council, a majestic assembly of the most powerful and ancient species in the galaxy, had always prided itself on its wisdom and understanding of the civilizations under its watchful eye. For eons, the Council had maintained peace and order across countless star systems, using a delicate balance of diplomacy, strategic alliances, and, when necessary, force. Among the myriad species represented in this grand body, humans were considered a minor, albeit intriguing, curiosity. To the Council, humans were a species of paradoxes, capable of great technological feats, yet seemingly adverse to the brutal realities of galactic warfare. From the Council's perspective, humanity's history was defined by a persistent preference for diplomacy, trade, and cultural exchange. Humans were known more for their scientific discoveries, artistic achievements, and diplomatic missions than for any military conquests. The Council had observed countless human interactions with other species, noting how they consistently sought peaceful resolutions to conflicts, often going to great lengths to avoid bloodshed. This pattern of behavior led the Council to a firm conclusion: humans were inherently peaceful, perhaps even afraid of war. This belief was bolstered by numerous treaties humans had signed over the years, often agreeing to terms that, while beneficial, seemed to favor avoiding conflict at almost any cost. Even when tensions rose between humans and more aggressive species, humanity had always found a way to negotiate, to talk their way out of a fight, or to offer compromises that prevented escalation. There were many on the Council who took this as evidence of human frailty. The Zorvans, a warrior race with a long history of military dominance, often mocked humans as being too weak-hearted to stand in the face of true adversity. The Tarkesh, known for their cunning and strategic brilliance, dismissed humans as mere idealists, creatures who didn't understand the harsh realities of survival in a hostile galaxy. The Eilern, a species that thrived on conquest and power, saw humans as nothing more than naive dreamers who lacked the stomach for real battle. The Council's archives were filled with instances where humans had chosen to avoid conflict. There was the time when the Tshran, a notoriously aggressive species, had claimed a resource-rich asteroid belt that humans had laid claim to. Rather than escalating the situation, the humans had offered a trade agreement that benefited both parties, effectively avoiding what many believed would have been an inevitable war. Then there was the incident with the Zorvath pirates, where, instead of deploying their fleet to crush the raiders, the humans had negotiated a deal, providing the pirates with safe passage in exchange for peace. These examples, and many others like them, reinforced the Council's perception that humans simply did not have the capacity for war. To the Council, this was not necessarily a flaw. Every species had its strengths and weaknesses. However, it did lead to a certain complacency when considering humanity's role in the larger galactic order. The Council never saw the need to involve humans in major military alliances or to consider them as potential threats. Instead, they were content to leave humanity to its own devices, assuming that, when push came to shove, humans would either negotiate their way out of trouble or, if the situation became dire enough, simply retreat. But as the Council reveled in its supposed understanding of humanity, a new threat began to loom on the horizon. The Rogue Empire, a coalition of several outlaw species who had rejected the Council's authority, began its ruthless conquest to dominate the galaxy. This empire, led by the merciless and ambitious Vokar, sought to dismantle the established order, replacing it with a new regime where only the strong would survive. Their forces were brutal, efficient, and utterly without mercy. Star systems fell one by one as the Rogue Empire advanced, leaving devastation in its wake. The Council, for all its wisdom, was not immune to fear. The threat posed by the Rogue Empire was unlike anything they had faced in millennia. Discussions in the Council chambers grew heated as they debated how best to respond to the growing crisis. There were those who advocated for immediate and overwhelming military action, while others called for diplomacy, hoping to broker some kind of peace with Vokar before it was too late. When the question of humanity's role in this looming conflict arose, the Council was almost unanimous in its conclusion: humans would not fight. There was no reason to believe that humanity would abandon its long-standing aversion to war, especially in the face of such a terrifying adversary. The Council assumed that, at best, Humans might offer some form of logistical or humanitarian support, perhaps opening their borders to refugees fleeing the rogue empire's onslaught. But when it came to taking up arms and joining the fight, the Council believed humanity would choose neutrality or, if pressed, flee to the safety of the outer colonies. The Council's decision was made. They would not call upon humanity to join the battle against the rogue empire. Instead, they focused on rallying the more traditionally warlike species, those who had proven their mettle in countless battles before. The Zorvans, the Tarkesh, the Eilern, they would be the ones to lead the charge. Humanity, in the Council's eyes, would remain on the sidelines, as they always had. For centuries, humanity played its role in the galaxy as a peace-loving civilization, content to explore the stars, share knowledge, and build alliances. But beneath this facade of diplomacy and cultural exchange lay a carefully guarded secret. Humanity had never been as naive or as passive as the Galactic Council believed. From the moment humans first encountered other intelligent species, they understood the potential for conflict, and they prepared for it in ways that no one outside Earth could have imagined. Long ago, as humanity expanded into the stars, they quietly began studying every species they encountered. They didn't just learn about their cultures and technologies. They meticulously analyzed their strengths and weaknesses, cataloging every detail that could be of use in a future conflict. This wasn't paranoia, it was pragmatism. Humans knew that peace could only be maintained if they were prepared to defend it, and they were determined to be ready for any threat that might arise. In secret, human military and intelligence agencies embarked on a centuries-long project to gather and analyze data from across the galaxy. They infiltrated alien governments, tapped into communication networks, and conducted covert operations that remained undetected by even the most advanced species. Through these efforts, humanity built a comprehensive understanding of the tactical and strategic capabilities of every species in the galaxy. They knew which species relied on brute force, which ones preferred stealth, and which ones would crumble under psychological warfare. This intelligence wasn't just stored away for future reference. It was used to develop strategies and contingencies tailored to each potential adversary. Human military planners devised thousands of scenarios, from small skirmishes to full-scale interstellar wars, each one meticulously detailed and prepared for. They crafted plans that could turn the unique strengths of each alien species against them, exploiting every possible weakness. And these plans were constantly updated as new information came in, ensuring that humanity was always several steps ahead of any potential enemy. But knowledge alone wasn't enough. Humanity knew that to defend themselves, they needed more than just strategies. They needed the means to execute them. In the depths of space, far from prying eyes, humans developed some of the most advanced weaponry and technology the galaxy had ever seen. While the rest of the galaxy marveled at Earth's achievements in science and art, human engineers and scientists worked tirelessly in hidden facilities, creating weapons that could decimate entire fleets and technologies that could outmaneuver any known defense. Humanity's arsenal included AI-driven ships capable of autonomous combat, energy weapons that could pierce even the strongest shields, and stealth systems that rendered their vessels invisible to all known detection methods. They developed nanotechnology that could disable enemy equipment at a molecular level and cyber warfare capabilities that could bring down entire civilizations without firing a single shot. These innovations were kept under the strictest secrecy, known only to a select few within the highest echelons of human leadership. Leading these efforts were some of the greatest minds humanity had ever produced, military strategists who had studied the art of war since childhood, scientists who pushed the boundaries of what was technologically possible, and intelligence officers who had spent decades in the shadows, gathering the information that made all of this possible. These individuals were united by a single purpose: to ensure that when the time came, humanity would not only survive but emerge victorious, no matter the odds. Despite all these preparations, humanity continued to present a peaceful front to the galaxy. They maintained their diplomatic ties, participated in cultural exchanges, and continued to advocate for peace and cooperation. This wasn't a deception in the traditional sense, it was a reflection of humanity's true desires. They didn't seek war, and they genuinely hoped that the need for these preparations would never come. But they also knew that hope wasn't enough, and they were unwilling to leave their survival to chance. Every now and then, humanity would conduct a covert operation to test their weapons and strategies, careful not to attract attention. These operations were executed with precision, leaving no trace that could be linked back to Earth. In one instance, a small fleet of pirate ships that had been preying on merchant vessels in a distant star system suddenly vanished without a trace. The pirates' disappearance was chalked up to internal conflicts, but in reality it had been a test of a new type of weapon, a weapon so advanced that it eliminated its targets without leaving a single piece of debris. In another case, an alien research outpost reported a brief but complete loss of control over their systems, followed by a return to normal operations with no apparent damage. The incident was dismissed as a minor glitch, but in truth, it had been a demonstration of humanity's cyber warfare capabilities, a silent reminder that no system in the galaxy was truly secure from human intervention. The rogue empire moved with a terrifying efficiency, sweeping through star systems like a wildfire, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. It was as if the galaxy had never seen such a force before, a coalition of outlaw species, each with a deep-seated grudge against the Galactic Council, united under the iron rule of the Vokar. Their strategy was brutal and direct, overwhelm each system with sheer numbers and advanced weaponry, leaving no survivors to mount a resistance. Planets that had once thrived with life and culture were reduced to lifeless husks in mere days. Fear spread quickly across the galaxy as news of the Rogue Empire's conquests reached even the most distant colonies. Worlds that had once felt secure under the protection of the Council now questioned their safety. The speed at which the Vokar's forces moved was unprecedented, and the sheer brutality they displayed sent shockwaves through every species. Entire fleets were obliterated before they could even mount a defense, and those who tried to flee were hunted down mercilessly. The Rogue Empire was not just a military force, it was a statement, a declaration that the old order was crumbling, and a new one was rising in its place. The Galactic Council, for all its experience and wisdom, was caught off guard by the ferocity of the Empire's advance. There were hurried meetings and urgent discussions as the Council scrambled to respond to the growing threat. They mobilized fleets, fortified key positions, and sent diplomats to distant systems in a desperate attempt to rally support. Yet, despite the growing crisis, the Council continued to underestimate humanity's role in the conflict. The belief that humans were too peaceful, too afraid of war, remained deeply ingrained in the minds of the Council members. As the Rogue Empire continued its relentless march, the Council focused its efforts on shoring up alliances with the more traditionally militant species. The Zorvans and Islan were called upon to lead the charge, their battle-hardened forces seen as the best hope of stemming the tide. The Tarkesh, with their strategic brilliance, were tasked with devising countermeasures and coordinating defensive efforts. And yet, in all these plans and discussions, humanity was mentioned only in passing. The assumption was clear: humans might offer logistical support or take in refugees, but they would not fight. They would do what they always did: negotiate, retreat, survive. However, not everyone within the Council was convinced of this narrative. A few voices, quieter but growing in concern, began to question the wisdom of leaving humanity out of the equation. The Ailunar, a species known for their intuition and foresight, quietly urged the Council to consider the possibility that humans might not be as passive as they appeared. There were whispers of human technological advancements, rumors of secretive military projects that had never been publicly acknowledged. But these warnings were dismissed by the majority, who still clung to the belief that humanity's aversion to war would keep them on the sidelines. The Rogue Empire's conquests drew ever closer to the heart of the galaxy, and with each victory, the Council's confidence waned. They had underestimated the Vokar, just as they had underestimated the ruthlessness of the forces aligned against them. But the tipping point came when the Empire set its sights on a system that was of great importance to humanity, an outer colony, home to millions of humans and a strategic hub for interstellar trade. The attack was swift and devastating, with the Rogue Empire's fleet overwhelming the colony's defenses in a matter of hours. For the Council, this was the moment of truth. They expected humanity to respond as they always had, with negotiations, perhaps an offer to surrender the colony in exchange for peace. Some even believed that humans might abandon the colony altogether, retreating to safer systems. The Council prepared for the inevitable diplomatic pleas, ready to offer what little support they could while focusing their military efforts elsewhere. After all, they reasoned, humans were not warriors. They were diplomats, traders, thinkers. They would never engage in a war they couldn't win. But humanity's response was nothing like what the Council had expected. There were no negotiations, no attempts to broker a deal. Instead, the humans remained eerily silent in the hours following the attack, a silence that unsettled even those who had dismissed them as inconsequential. This silence wasn't born of fear. It was the calm before a storm that no one in the galaxy had anticipated. The Council's expectations, their assumptions about humanity's nature, were about to be shattered in the most dramatic way possible. As the Rogue Empire's fleet settled into orbit around the captured colony, preparing to move on to their next target, they received an unexpected transmission. It wasn't a plea for mercy or an offer of surrender. It was a warning. A single message transmitted on all frequencies, declaring that the time for negotiation had passed. The humans were not going to retreat, and they were certainly not going to surrender. The Rogue Empire had made a grave mistake, and now they would face the consequences. Humanity's decision to strike didn't come lightly, but it was a decision made with the full weight of their collective resolve. The attacks on their outer colony served as the catalyst, igniting a fierce debate among Earth's leaders and military strategists. For years, humanity had prepared for the worst while hoping for the best, but the time for hope had passed. Now they were faced with a choice: continue to play the role the galaxy had assigned them, or reveal the true extent of their capabilities and face the threat head-on. The discussions were intense, but there was a remarkable unity in the decision-making process. The realization that negotiation was no longer an option brought clarity. Across Earth and its colonies, leaders, generals, and citizens alike understood that this was a defining moment. It wasn't just about defending a single colony. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity would not be cowed, that they would stand up against tyranny and aggression, no matter the odds. The decision to strike was unanimous. Humanity would launch a preemptive attack against the Rogue Empire, and they would do so with every weapon in their arsenal. When the order was given, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for centuries, and now it was time to unleash the full might of their hidden arsenal. From secret bases scattered across the galaxy, fleets of advanced warships emerged, each one a marvel of human engineering. These ships were equipped with weapons and technology that the galaxy had never seen: plasma cannons that could rip through the thickest armor, stealth systems that rendered them invisible to enemy sensors, and AI-controlled drones that could outmaneuver any known fighter craft. The preemptive strike was swift and precise. Human fleets jumped into the heart of the Rogue Empire's territory, catching their forces completely off guard. What followed was a display of military prowess that left the Rogue Empire reeling. Entire enemy fleets were annihilated before they had a chance to respond, their ships torn apart by weapons they couldn't understand, much less defend against. Human tactics were brutal and efficient, designed not just to defeat the enemy but to shatter their will to fight. The battle over the captured colony was particularly devastating. The Rogue Empire's fleet, confident in their control over the system, was utterly decimated within hours. Human ships appeared from nowhere, their stealth systems bypassing all enemy defenses. In a coordinated assault, they unleashed a barrage of firepower that left the rogue fleet in ruins. The few ships that managed to escape were pursued and destroyed, leaving no survivors to warn the rest of the Empire. On the ground, advanced human infantry units deployed with lethal precision. Equipped with exoskeletons that enhanced their strength and speed, they moved through the enemy ranks like ghosts, eliminating resistance with cold efficiency. The Rogue Empire's soldiers, who had expected to face a demoralized and retreating enemy, were instead met with a force that was relentless and unstoppable. The colony was liberated in a matter of hours, and the message was clear: humanity was no longer on the defensive, they were taking the fight to the enemy. Back at the Galactic Council, the reaction to humanity's sudden and overwhelming response was one of utter disbelief. The Council had underestimated humanity at every turn, and now they were witnessing the consequences of their complacency. As reports of the battles poured in, the council members struggled to comprehend what they were seeing. The humans they had thought to be weak and fearful were proving themselves to be one of the most formidable military forces in the galaxy. For the first time, the council saw the full extent of humanity's power, and it shook them to their core. Species that had once mocked humans as naive and peaceful now watched in awe as human fleets dismantled the rogue empire's forces with ruthless precision. The council's chambers, once filled with confident voices dismissing the threat posed by the rogue empire, were now silent as the reality of the situation set in. Humanity had not only joined the war, they had turned the tide in a way that no one had anticipated. As the rogue empire's territories fell one by one, the council was forced to confront the new balance of power in the galaxy. Humanity, long underestimated and overlooked, had emerged as a dominant force. Their willingness to strike, to use their full strength when necessary, left an indelible mark on the galaxy. The rogue empire, once feared as an unstoppable juggernaut, was now on the brink of collapse, all because of a species the council had believed to be afraid of war. The rogue empire, once a terrifying force that seemed unstoppable, crumbled under the weight of humanity's relentless onslaught. What began as a shocking preemptive strike quickly evolved into a systematic dismantling of the empire's military power. Human fleets, now fully revealed, swept through the rogue empire's territories with unmatched precision. One by one, strongholds that had once been thought impregnable fell. Strategic strikes against key supply lines, communications hubs, and command centers left the rogue empire in disarray, unable to mount an effective defense. The turning point came when humanity's forces cornered the rogue empire's leadership on their homeworld. In a final, desperate attempt to hold their ground, the Vokar unleashed every remaining resource at their disposal. But it was futile. Human tactics, honed through centuries of preparation, rendered the rogue empire's last stand nothing more than a formality. Advanced weaponry, superior coordination, and the sheer will to see the conflict through to its end left the rogue empire with no escape. The final blow came not with a grand battle, but with the quiet, inevitable realization that they had lost, utterly and completely. With the defeat of the rogue empire, the galaxy shifted its attention back to the Galactic Council. The very same body that had once dismissed humanity as a minor player now found itself in a state of shock and reevaluation. The Council had been wrong, profoundly so. Humanity was not the timid, peace-loving species they had assumed. The speed and decisiveness with which humans had neutralized the rogue empire's threat forced the Council to confront a new reality. Humans were a force to be reckoned with, a power that could no longer be ignored or underestimated. As the reports of the rogue empire's defeat spread across the galaxy, a palpable sense of awe and fear began to settle among the alien species. The Zorvans, who had once scoffed at the idea of humans as warriors, now spoke of them with a grudging respect. The Tarkesh, known for their strategic brilliance, acknowledged that humans had outmaneuvered even their most cunning plans. The Eilern, who had seen humanity as nothing more than naive dreamers, now saw them as equals, if not superiors, in the art of war. The Council's chambers, once filled with confident voices declaring humanity's weakness, were now quiet, their members deep in thought. They understood that they had misjudged humanity, and that this mistake had nearly cost them the galaxy. In the aftermath of the rogue empire's defeat, the Council began to reassess their entire approach to galactic governance. New alliances were proposed, treaties were redrafted, and humanity was invited to join the inner circle of decision-makers, a position they had never before been offered. But with this newfound respect came an undercurrent of fear. The other species knew that if humanity could defeat the rogue empire with such ease, they could do the same to anyone who opposed them. The power dynamics within the Council began to shift, with humans now holding a significant influence over decisions that would shape the future of the galaxy. Former rivals now sought to align themselves with humanity, recognizing that it was better to be an ally than to risk becoming an enemy. In the wake of their victory, humanity did not gloat or seek to dominate. Instead, they returned to the principles they had always valued: peace, cooperation, and mutual respect. But now, these principles were backed by the knowledge that they could enforce them if necessary. The galaxy, once skeptical of humanity's resolve, now understood that humans were not afraid of war. They had simply prepared for it in ways no one could have imagined. This preparation had not only saved them, but had reshaped the galaxy itself. As the dust settled, the galaxy entered a new era, one where the balance of power had shifted significantly. Humanity's rise as a military power brought stability, but also a new awareness among the Council's members. They knew that the future would be shaped by the decisions humanity made, and that the galaxy's peace now rested in human hands. The Council's misjudgment had led to one of the greatest underestimations in galactic history, and they vowed never to make such a mistake again.